Same old man. Game over. Johnny.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 647 for July 27th, 2025, and I'm Jada Duran.
And I'm Brendan Cassidy.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm really excited for this week's show.
Yeah.
However, for a little bit of inside baseball, I am currently feeling a little bit of that Robin Williams gif that you see from time to time of, what year is it? From that classic 90s movie that we all love and adore. However,
From the
maybe
year
not so much the
1995.
year.
Was that Jumanji? I think, yeah, it was from Jumanji.
Yeah. It's not so much the year, but a little bit of, I don't know what day it is. What week is it? It's still July, right?
I thought
I
you
am
were,
all kinds of confused.
I thought you were referring to the idea that you go to a movie theater nowadays, and when I mean nowadays, I mean like right now, this very second, and you look at the marquee of what movies are playing, and it's like everything that would have happened in the 90s. We have a new Fantastic Four, there's a new Superman, a new I Know What You Did Last Summer. It kind of looks like we're in a bit of a cinematic time warp in a way.
You have to go to the movies to see the trailers. What a
That
world we live in now.
That is a great point. I finally saw this talked about Avatar Fire and Ash trailer, and it's not online anywhere.
No, it's not.
I love that.
Yes, we've had to go to the theaters to see two trailers that do not live online at all. And it was hilarious because I didn't know how it was going to be stitched to Fantastic Four. So when we went to the theater, and I went with Sam, who was very excited to not only see Fantastic Four, but he was really excited to see the trailer for Avatar Fire and Ash. He would fit in perfectly with Film Twitter in that regard.
That's awesome.
So we get there, we make sure we get there early because we don't want to miss this trailer. Again, to your point, it's a little bit of that old school feel going to the theaters. You don't want to miss the trailers. I haven't felt that way in literally a decade or more.
It's so nostalgic. I love it as well. Well.
It's crazy. So we go, we get our food, we sit down, we're going through the trailers, and it's going and going, and I'm looking at him, and he has like these disappointed eyes. And I reiterate to him, I know that they're going to play the trailer. I have been told. Everyone has promised me that this trailer plays before we see the movie. And it gets to the last trailer, and then you get to the AMC welcome to the show, Nicole Kidman ad, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The trailers are over. And I looked at him.
It's pretty deflating, right? That you think that all the trailers are done, and then it starts after the theater ads. So it's actually like
no idea.
Yeah, it's baked into the actual experience of the movie then.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had even I pulled out my phone and I got on Twitter, and I was about to tweet to AMC to be like, what the heck, bro? Why didn't we get this trailer?
I do have that worry as well often when I go to see a movie and I know there's supposed to be a special presentation of some type of trailer, and then I think I'm not going to get it, and then I realize, was this only for seeing it in IMAX or something like that?
Well, that was my thought.
Before. Yeah.
Yes, that was exactly verbatim. You nailed it. What stopped me from sending the tweet? Before I hit send, I had that exact thought, and I told Sam, well, maybe it was just an IMAX thing. Maybe I misread it.
Yeah.
But the movie was about to begin, so I put my phone away, of course, because I'm not an imbecile. And I'm not there to distract people with my phone.
Good man.
So I put my phone away. I did not send the tweet. And I told Sam, I'll just have to look it up afterwards. I'll have to figure out. Maybe I just misread it.
Yeah.
So I put my phone away. And as soon as I put my phone away, to your point, the green trailer screen comes up.
There's one more. And they
there's
saved
one more.
And then that's when you know this is a special one.
This is exactly. And I do love that they treated it the same as the Pixar shorts before you go to see the Pixar movie, where it's just baked into the experience. I thought that was great.
I often equate it to those fake trailers that play before Tropic Thunder. Remember
Yeah,
that? They were
or-
actually
or
part of
that,
the
yeah.
movie, but it was like this extended trailer, like prologue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, yeah. So I thought that was great. I loved it. And
Mhm.
I had an orgasm.
I
It
have
was
those, but
incredible.
I have those fears as well, JD. And it's like I often think, am I in the wrong place for? Am I in the wrong presentation for this type of movie to see this trailer? Because they used to do that back in the day. I remember seeing like the opening 5 minutes of Star Trek Into Darkness playing before, I think it was Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. But I
Mhm.
think you can only experience that if you saw it in IMAX or in 3D or something like
Yeah.
that. Otherwise, you just get basic trailers. They used to do that. So I always have that fear every time that there's this
Yeah.
special presentation of some type of trailer. I think, do I have to shove aside extra
Mhm.
money to see it in a bigger format? Otherwise, I'm going to miss it. But
Mhm.
both times we've seen it this year with the Odyssey and now Avatar Fire and Ash, they're playing it in front of all of them, or at least like every Fantastic
Mhm.
Four screening, and I guess every what movie did they originally play the Odyssey before? That was marketed
Was
before.
that Jurassic World?
I think.
Or
Oh yeah,
Superman?
it was
Or was
Jurassic
it
World. It was
Superman?
Jurassic World. I think
World?
it.
Okay.
I think it played before Superman as well, but it was
It did.
advertised as a special tie-in with Jurassic World because
Yeah.
I guess they're both Universal
Mhm.
properties.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen the Odyssey trailer a few times now because I think it
Yeah.
also played in front of Fantastic Four. But again, it's still not online unless there's a leaked version. I'm sure there's a
Which
leaked
doesn't
version
count.
online.
That doesn't count.
Yeah. It's not officially online though. So again, you have to go to the theater to see those trailers. If we get back to that, man, my pre-movie routine is going to change. Like it's going
Remember
to be
those
very
stories
exciting.
of people going to see movies just to catch the Star Wars Episode 1 Phantom Menace trailer for
Oh,
the
yeah.
first time, then they'd leave the theater?
Yeah, I'm sure there was some of that. I have no doubt.
Oh, yeah. I've heard people say that they did the same thing for the Odyssey.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I was half tempted to do that for the Avatar Fire and Ash trailer to find another screening.
Just walk in
Just
and then walk out.
in and then leave. Yeah, but again, I love that I have to do that. It's very exciting that we're getting back to that. At least
Mhm.
there's the beginning of a trend. I hope that it continues because
Yeah,
I loved
and-
it. I loved that experience.
Fire and Ash looks good.
It looks good. Big
Yeah.
Jim, man, he's
Looks good.
He looks like he's cooking once again. This time with fire, it turns out.
Yeah. Oh, how appropriate.
How appropriate. Going back to my original point, the whole reason I am feeling a little bit of I don't know what day it is. Hopefully, it's still July. What is going on here? Is because I went on another vacation over this last week.
Yeah, a
Of
lot
course,
them.
we had content that still went out. I was on the main show last week, but we pre-recorded that the week before.
Yeah.
You may have noticed I was not on any of the reviews this last week. I know what you did last summer. I still have not seen that film. Eddington, Brendan held down the fort for that. I was back home in Michigan and I got to go see my family. It was a really great time. And
Yeah. Happy for you.
that experience taught me a couple of things.
Okay.
Going back home for the first time since the pandemic. I had not been
Yeah.
to Michigan post 2020. So going home taught me a couple of things. One, there is just nothing like going home. As much as we get away from home, it reminded me a lot of Lady Bird. I felt like Lady Bird while I was on this trip, where there is the allure to get away, but there's something about home that for a lot of us, if you grow up in a traumatic environment, you probably do not have these feelings, and that is
Sure. It's
valid.
yeah. It's probably not nostalgic in the positive way.
Yeah, exactly. But going home, and I had a great childhood. We didn't grow up with much in terms of finances or resources, but I had a lovely childhood. And going home back to Michigan, where the summer is warm, but it's not Florida. Oh my God, I'm going to jump off this building. It's so hot.
Yeah. You actually have all 4 seasons, and they actually feel like all 4 seasons.
Yeah. Like it was a nice 80 degrees. It wasn't the 95 degrees I'm used to here. And it certainly did not have the absurd humidity that you get in South Florida as well.
Oh yeah. You're
So
more
it
inland.
was a really, really nice 80 degrees back home and getting to see family. So there was that Lady Bird. I love being back here, and I will always be tied to this no matter how far away I am in life, physically speaking. And that was a great reminder. I very much enjoyed being Saoirse Ronan.
There's something very sweet about that. And I think that certainly happens to those of us that grew up in very small towns that have very almost, and I don't know if your upbringing was in a small, almost rural like town.
Oh yeah. Very small
Mine
town.
definitely was as well. I often joke about how we were late to school pretty often because we got stuck behind a horse and buggy. That was very common for where we lived. But you know, when you grow up and when you relocate, whether you're still close to that hometown or not, you tend to find yourself in more populated areas nowadays. I feel like, at least we do, you and I specifically. So when I go home to visit my family who still live in the town I grew up in, it's just such a different vibe. And it's such a different vibe when you reconnect with how, I don't want to say disconnected, but it's just a very different way of living. There's a simplicity to it that like I've kind of come to appreciate as I've gotten older. And I was not as aware of it when I was younger, but I'm more aware of that now.
Yeah, it was great. And it also tied to boyhood in a sense as well, that whole idea of magic in the mundane, because of that simplicity that you're talking about. There were a lot of moments where we were just sitting around talking. We weren't really doing much in terms of activity. There were certainly plenty of activities. We went out on one of the lakes there. My uncle has a really nice boat. We went out on one of the lakes. Sam got to go fish out on a lake for the first time. We took them to the Toledo Zoo, which was a lot of fun. And our little one, Andrew, just had the time of his life. We went to the Air Force Museum in Dayton. We certainly did things, but we did equally as much just sitting around talking and being around each other. And that mundanity was more magical to me in a lot of ways.
And it makes those big moments more impactful because you know you're sharing it with someone where those mundane moments actually meant something. It's not just about the activity itself. You know, the activity itself is heightened because of who you're spending time with, because of those mundane moments to amplify it.
And while I still enjoy, you know, get-togethers, family get-togethers here with Brandy's family, there is something about getting together with my family back home, because I don't get to hang out with them during Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween and things of that nature, which I do miss. I miss dearly. And even though it's a little bit of a glimpse, I kind of miss that get together with family and having the conversations with them, whether it be about sports, politics, crazy family things that are happening. I miss all of that 99% of the time these days. So to get a little bit of that in the, you know, in the brief moments that we were home was also great.
It's a good fix. It's a good fix, right?
So it was really great. It reminded me of those great little movies that I love about home and family.
That's how you know we've seen a lot of movies, when we just start making actual movies mirrors of our own lives in a way.
Exactly. You can't help but think
you
about
can't help it. It's like, oh, it reminds me of this
movie.
movie. Oh, this thing in my life now reminds me of this
100%. It was great. The other thing about this trip that I learned is that Hans Zimmer, when he scored Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, that dude was cooking more than I even thought he did, because it's a score that I love already. And that main Pirates theme that plays throughout that entire series is legendary, and for good reason. All of the praises of that main theme, it is warranted. I equally am enthralled by it.
Yeah.
But that love theme that he has for At World's End is underratedly one of his very best cues. This isn't necessarily like a new concept for me. I have loved this track for years now. I don't know if I've ever really talked about it here on the show, but the reason I bring this up is because on the way to Michigan, we're on the plane. You need something to do. I had downloaded Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End to watch. And I'm watching that movie and just fixated on the score. Like I could not believe how much I responded to it after seeing it again for like the 10th time. I've seen that movie like a dozen times, and I love the score, and I'm 30,000 feet in the air and wowed yet again, even though I've seen the film so many times, that he just continues to blow me away with the magic of that film and what he brings to it. And that romance theme that he plays, like when that violin starts kicking in, like the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It is astounding how good it is.
Do you think that
ridiculous?
Do you think that has something to do with the nostalgia being heightened, that you just got back from visiting your hometown, that all of a sudden now older movies that you're nostalgic towards feel even more emotionally heightened? Do you think there's maybe...
Well, perhaps.
I say that
I had on the way to Michigan.
Yeah, and I say that as not to downplay anything that's going on with Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which I actually think is a massively underrated movie. I think that is an awesome movie.
Yeah.
We really often talk about that whole trilogy as being a representation of what blockbuster filmmaking used to be, that we'd love to see Hollywood get back into.
Yeah.
But there's so much that Hans Zimmer is doing in all three of those movies, and that third one especially, that is quite great. So I don't mean to downplay it, but it's like I often have that experience when I feel a weird sense of warmth or nostalgia for something that I grew up with. Maybe if I visited home for whatever reason, and then I think or rewatch something that I used to love as a kid, all of a sudden it's better, and I notice different qualities in a different way. Which again, like that just happens to me sometimes.
No, I've really come around on 3 a lot. I don't think either of the sequels would ever top that first Pirates, but I think 3 comes awfully close. And I've
it's
seen
the second best
so many
of the
times.
3.
By far.
Yeah.
And I've seen that film 2 times in the last year. In fact, I want to say it was either at the end of last year, maybe early this year. Sam put it on at home. We watched it at home and had a great experience. And then on my own, decided that's the film I wanted to watch on the plane. And the cues of that film have lingered on me for years at this point. But there's something about the epiphany of, I think this love cue is, again, a little bit of what we talked about a few weeks ago with Man of Steel of, is this a top 5 Hans Zimmer score? Like I had that conversation in my head again. Like, is this a top 5 Hans Zimmer score?
Hans Zimmer has
like,
at least 15 top 5 Hans Zimmer scores.
I was blown away by the new cues that he brings to that film specifically, and how it complements that main theme, which is, of course, there. You also have that up is down sequence when they have to flip the pearl upside down. That cue, magic as well. Like unbelievably good. Like,
that whole
so
movie is just a
good
movie making vibe. It's
like,
just such a great movie making vibe.
Gore Verbinski should get oopsie, we accidentally let go of you too soon. Like like Hollywood owes him an apology and needs to bring him back immediately. Like,
I know he's apparently working on another film. I don't know much about it other than that I think it involves AI in some way, which, if that's true, I'm not sure how much I'm looking forward to that, because even his last film, what was that, A Cure for Wellness? Not a perfect movie, but an ambitious one, a really interesting
I love
one.
The ambitious,
yeah.
No, I love the weirdness of his movies, and At World's End is quintessential blockbuster, and he gets away with things in that film that would never get greenlit today, ever. Like, especially that opening.
Yeah, imagine if Disney gave him a blank check to say, okay, we're bringing you back for a new Pirates movie. You could do whatever you want.
I would be there.
Yeah.
Like the way I feel about Goat Cameron and Avatar, I would be there for Gore Verbinski.
Which apparently, I mean, that's kind of how both Dead Man's Chest and At World's End got made. I don't know what else Disney had coming out those respective years, but part of why those movies are as weird as they are, I think it's because Disney, they were busy spearheading other properties those same years. They didn't have time to meddle or interfere with those 2 specific movies. So they ended up being but kind of like blank checks for the weirdness of Gore Verbinski. I love that. I absolutely love that.
I love that as well, even if it's just a happy accident.
Yeah,
I don't know if you could get away with it anymore, but
nah, probably not.
Those movies absolutely rule. And yeah, I couldn't believe, and I'm glad that on the way to Michigan, our plane was kind of only half full. It wasn't very full, which thank God, because the young one could run around a little bit.
Oh yeah, okay.
But I was like full on geeking out. Like I like that love theme would kick in, and I think it's as good as anything Hans Zimmer has ever done. Like objectively speaking, like it is unbelievably good, and it just doesn't get talked about enough because the main theme of that series overshadows anything else that he pretty much did. And look, again, it's understandable. That main Pirates theme, it freaking rules. But man, that love theme for At World's End, it's in that conversation.
Maybe
100%.
this is a top 5 we have to do. Top 5 Hans Zimmer tracks.
I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Exactly.
God.
It's not easy.
We'd have to do a top 10. I don't think I could do a top 5.
We have to do a top 50. What are you talking about?
Yeah, top 20. I could do a top 20. We might have to just do that. Okay. Well, with that out of the way, we have some fun things to talk about on this show. Fantastic Four First Steps came out in theaters this last weekend. We're going to have a review for it, of course. And the great Megan Laux is going to join us for that conversation. Very much look forward to that. However, before we get to the back half of the show, and we have a superhero theme in mind for that.
Yeah.
But with Fantastic Four coming out, we wanted to circle back and once again have a little bit of a State of the Union, an MCU State of the Union conversation. Because this, and we've talked about this for months now, that the Fantastic Four needed to hit. We didn't anticipate Thunderbolts being what it was, to be fair.
Yeah.
But we did expect that in terms of larger audience appeal, the narrative of the MCU, where are we going? Fantastic Four needed to hit.
Yeah.
Given the iconicness of those characters, Marvel's first family, they're coming into the MCU for the first time. There was an importance for that to land. So with the film now out and we've seen it, Brendan, I will give the floor to you first.
Okay.
Did they do enough of a good job of establishing those characters? How does it change the MCU for you, if it does at all? And does it change your perspective on where the next phase is going to go?
That's such a tricky question because I don't want to give too much away as far as how we feel about the movie, because that could be saved and that should be saved for our review of it. If anything, maybe I want to try to speak to if I feel like the film is going to appeal to the mass Marvel audience and get them excited about whatever new things are going to come. I think it will, primarily because whether you like the movie or not, the movie does seem to be aware of some of the common criticisms and problems that have been plaguing Marvel for quite some time. In a way, the movie kind of feels like it's addressing them and making a movie about it being kind of a course correction in some ways. Like it does kind of feel like a reset button. And I do think people will respond to that, whether the movie's good or not. I feel like is almost beside the point. It had a really great, strong opening, so people still have an invested interest in this superhero family. But I think the vibe that it gives off, that it's hinting at a new direction for Marvel, is what people will latch on to. And I think that will kind of spearhead the interest and longevity of Marvel and how it leads to Doomsday. I don't know where it's going to go narratively anymore. You and I kind of speculated. We had an idea of where we thought Fantastic Four was going to end. we were kind of wrong, but also
we were
kind of right.
very wrong.
You know what? In hindsight, we should have realized that we were wrong because that may have just been too obvious. Like it's
Maybe.
kind of like back when Captain America: Civil War first came out in 2016. The theory was, well, not really the theory, but the speculation was, okay, Captain America versus Iron Man. Which one of them is going to die? That was the conversation, right? Because that is essentially how the comics themselves played out. Of course, the movies don't do that. They do something very different, a bit more small scale, which I appreciated about that film. And without getting into spoilers here, Fantastic Four does something rather similar, which does leave a little bit of ambiguity as to where we're actually going, even though we do know that Doomsday is coming. Dr. Doom is coming. We know all of that is coming. The how and why of it all is still very unclear, which I do think people will, at least I hope that they find interesting. I'm not sure if that's actually an asset to these films for me personally, but I do think it might be a way to get people back on board. So I think the overall vibe the film conveys, I think will maybe kind of rejigger the trajectory of where they're going. I feel like that could happen.
Yeah, I do think ultimately 2025 will be successful for them. And what I did not anticipate is that alongside Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts has a lot of weight in this. Thunderbolts is arguably the better film of the two. And a lot of people love it. People very much responded to it. Fantastic Four will likely have a better box office run, but again, that is expected.
It has the notoriety, right? Yeah.
However, the critic reaction to it has been pretty favorable. The audience reaction to Fantastic Four First Steps has been quite favorable as well. I do think people are walking out of that film satisfied and maybe interested in Marvel once again. The other caveat to this as well, especially when we're looking forward to what the rest of Phase 6 is going to be, Feige recently had a press conference where he said some weird things, to be honest. But among his weird comments, he was talking about how Phase 6 is going to operate as some sort of reboot for the MCU. So what does that look like? And I mean, does that mean that with the whole multiversal element of it, because Fantastic Four First Steps, as we all expected it to, establishes in the opening frame that it is a different universe than our 626 characters. And we know that they're going to be in Doomsday and Secret Wars. So does that give way to another Iron Man, another Captain America, alongside these Fantastic Four characters to then become permanent characters in the 626 universe? Probably. I think ultimately that's where this is going to go before they close that whole multiversal loop and move on to the next thing. That's likely what's going to happen, because he mentioned new casting for those characters, which makes sense. I don't think you need to bring back the original actors by any stretch of the imagination.
Does leave questions as to what that means and how much he'll even be featured, if much at all. I'm still unsure about that, or if it's going to be a new slate of characters that we haven't really seen in the MCU before that start to carry the leading torch, if you will.
I do hate, though, that Anthony Mackie got thrown right under the bus by Kevin Feige. I was a little surprised that he did that publicly like that. Because he called out that film directly. He didn't say Anthony Mackie was the reason that we're in this mess. He didn't say that explicitly, but he very much implied that the film didn't turn out the way they wanted. Audience reaction to it wasn't what they wanted. Box office wasn't what they wanted. And is that because it's not the Captain America that we all know and love? That's essentially what he was saying, which I think is a little murky.
That's bad wording. He's kind of like Reed Richards in Fantastic Four. He doesn't really know how to deliver a good press conference sometimes.
Seriously, maybe a little bit too analytical and not so great with the personal touch.
Clearly, he doesn't have a statement prepared.
Yeah, clearly not. And I don't know the context of the press conference, to be fair to Kevin Feige. I don't know if it was an unexpected question. I don't know why it would be. Maybe he was flustered. I don't know. Either way, it's not a good look on Kevin Feige's part. And
I mean, I appreciate
of,
him. Sorry to cut you off, but I appreciate him at least acknowledging that they've made mistakes. Marvel, as a corporation, as a company, has made mistakes. Of course, he deflected or directed where the essence of that mistake was in the wrong way, right?
Well,
Like that was
it's never going to come
not
back to him. And look, we don't have to get into it now because we will absolutely spend a lot of time on this when we get to our review of the Fantastic Four First Steps. But Kevin Feige is the biggest problem with that movie. And it's not even close as far as I'm concerned. I do think he is maybe utilizing his power a little bit too much and getting in the way of these movies. Unless, again, I'm assuming because he's the executive producer on these things and is spearheading the MCU, it could be Bob Iger, for all that we know, that is given Feige directives.
It's
I
entirely
highly
possible.
doubt that is the case, but that could be possible. It's not above Bob Iger to go to Kevin Feige and, look, this cut of Fantastic Four is too long, it's terrible, it's too slow, I don't want it. And then Feige has to be the bad guy. That could have happened.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting that past
He
Bob
becomes
Iger,
the villainous messenger that just happens to
Yes.
lead the way in that way. And I don't think you're wrong as far as how Fantastic Four First Steps turned out. I think where we might, I don't even want to say if we'll disagree on the movie, but where we might find some disparity is how much the final product, how much we're affected by how that final product turned out. You and I might put different weights on how edited the film ultimately is.
Look, I've put this out on social media, so it's no surprise. I really liked the film a lot, but the film is edited to an oblivion. And
it's a truncated version of another movie. It
100%.
really does. Yeah.
So, yes, I was still very much moved by the mechanics of the film and what it's attempting to do. I think it succeeds despite Kevin Feige's thumbprints being all over it. But that film it had top tier, maybe even top 5 MCU written all over it without that, without Kevin Feige or Bob Iger or whoever it was getting their hands in the cookie jar. Without that interference, that film could have been really great.
That's exactly why. We don't have to get too far in the weeds here. We'll get more into it on our review. We may even give some spoilers during that review, just given the depth of what we can talk about. It is why I was so disappointed by the movie, because I recognized that potential, and the final product to me just kind of felt like the Marvels or something like that to me. It didn't feel too different from how we've been seeing most of Phase 5 even play out. But I saw the seeds of what could have been great, because it feels like a movie that is at the same time actively trying to address what has been going wrong. And it is trying to fix those things, which is why I might still give it a slight edge and forgive some of those blemishes, because I saw the seeds of what could have been great. Individual pockets are very good for those reasons.
Yeah, and again, I think our disparity is going to come down to how we responded to those
how we're
elements.
affected by those things.
Yeah,
it sounds like I was maybe more affected than you were.
Yeah, because I was equally appalled by it being edited the way that it was, but that potential is something that I did respond to.
Sure.
And something that I did love. So
Sure.
yeah, it just came down to how I responded to the singular moments and aspects of that film, which again, we'll talk about. But it does make me a little bit concerned, which is the bigger point here, about where Phase 6 is going to go, what Spider-Man Brand New Day might be, what Doomsday might be, what his Secret War is going to be. If Feige is going to keep interfering, like the future of the MCU could be in peril.
It feels
with him
like
in charge.
It feels as if these last movies in Phase 6 are really just here to get over a finish line so that they can rebrand and reboot and do what Kevin Feige really wants to do. But the problem is, if you're just treating it as something that needs to get done, as an obligation, that's how you run into the same issue that the DCEU ran into, right? It starts to wane interest. People start to lose interest in where it's going. And that's what you can't have happen if you're in the process of trying to rebuild something and rebrand something. You need to maintain that. And if that is the case, I can actually see interest waning. Although I don't know if that's going to happen with Fantastic Four, because I think there's enough here, like I said earlier, that people are going to latch on to. It is still different enough by comparison to what most of Phase 4, most of Phase 5 was doing, and what people didn't like about those phases, that I think people will latch on to that. I think, if anything, a lot of people are going to latch on to the idea that this is maybe the first MCU film in probably ever that you actually don't have to do homework for.
No, you don't.
And I think,
which was hilarious about that tweet going around about, and this was on Disney Plus, to prepare for Fantastic Four, you need to see these movies, and it's all the other Fantastic Four movies. No, there is only one movie you need to watch to prepare yourself for Fantastic Four First Steps, and it's Pieces of a Woman.
this is
very seriously.
I would say, I mean, actually, that's a great point, but I would go further and say that basically this movie, Fantastic Four First Steps, is a complete amalgamation of Pieces of a Woman and The Incredibles.
Yes.
It is literally a mixture of those two movies.
It is 100%. Those are the two movies you really need to see.
Yeah.
We're going to see Fantastic Four
Very
First
true.
Steps, which I did not anticipate. And again, that's ultimately why I think I responded to it despite its clear blemishes, and what I loved about it. Again, we'll talk about that, but and I don't necessarily want to maybe be too alarmist here, because again, people have walked out satisfied. And there's been a lot of love for Fantastic Four that's been all over social media and the reaction to it. The box office is indicative of that as well. People are going to see this. It's off to the races, $218 million worldwide already.
It's a great opening. A- cinema score, I think, as well. So seems to get some pretty good audience word of mouth as well.
And it's going to linger for the next few weeks. I imagine this film is going to do very, very, very well in terms of its financial numbers. So again, I don't want to push the alarm button too soon, that despite Kevin Feige getting in the way, maybe that's a you and I thing. Maybe most people don't care as much. They still love the film, and that's enough for them.
I think it kind of goes back to that whole Deadpool and Wolverine thing, where you and I had massive problems with that movie, and yet people still responded to it. And I'm not saying that Fantastic Four First Steps is in the same category as Deadpool and Wolverine. This is much better, or at least I think it's much better than Deadpool and Wolverine. But I do think there are enough things that this movie is doing that people might not notice, which are things that you and I tend to notice, right? So I'm with you. I'm not ready to sound those alarm bells just yet. It's pushing the MCU in the right direction while still representing some of the things that we feel like are the wrong direction. It's kind of doing both, but I think there's enough in the right direction, which is what people will latch onto. I think that will be the talking point more so than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. So again, going back to what is the next phase going to be? What is the future of Marvel going to be? My concerns might just be my concerns or our concerns, since you seem to share similar feelings on the matter.
Yeah.
Maybe the Feige, Iger interference, wherever that's coming from, maybe that will be limited in terms of audience reception when it comes to Spider-Man and Doomsday and Secret Wars. Maybe people will love that. Maybe that will rejuvenate the MCU and give us something really exciting to look forward to.
Yeah.
As we move beyond Phase 6 and into Phase 7, whatever that looks like, which, again, to Feige's comments earlier, I very much anticipate is going to be a new series of Captain America movies, a new set of Iron Man movies. I don't know, maybe we'll get another solo Hulk movie. I don't know. Like there's so many
yeah.
seeds out there that they've laid on the ground. Which of them are going to bear fruit? There's, if we remember going back to She-Hulk, they have teased like some larger Hulk movie.
Yeah.
Like
just go back to all of the post-credit scenes from phases 4 and 5 that have had absolutely no resolution or even any follow-up whatsoever.
yeah.
I mean, like the post-credit scene for Thor: Love and Thunder, we got Brett Goldstein playing Hercules.
Yeah, the Hercules of it all. Like, are they going
Yeah.
to follow through on that?
Harry
I don't know.
Styles as Thanos' brother or something like that at the
Don't
end of
even remember all
Eternals.
of them. Don't remember all of them. Yeah, like is Wanda gonna come back? I don't think that's the case, but it feels like that door is open if they decide that they want to do that. What is going on with Ant-Man and that crew after the whole Kang thing, which they're just sweeping completely under the rug. I don't know. Is Loki gonna come back? People love Loki. Will they do a Loki movie just to pander to larger audience, expectations or what they want? Because it feels like that's what they're trying to do.
Well,
they're not being ambitious per se as much as they just want to get the floor above ground and back to where it was leading into Endgame.
And if this movie, Fantastic Four, is successful, we've now had 3 superhero movies this decade that were very successful and maybe for similar reasons. And they don't share universes per se. In fact, none of them do. But before Fantastic Four, you also have Matt Reeves' The Batman, and you also have Superman earlier this year. Not even earlier this year, earlier this month, right? And they all do pretty similar things by introducing us to an existing world, not being origin stories, but showcasing heroes in their infancy as they learn to become the heroes that we may have recognized from cartoons and comics. And I think, if anything, it might start changing the overall narrative feel of superhero movies and shared universes going forward. And it might end up feeling a bit more episodic, kind of like how it was when we used to watch Saturday morning cartoons growing up that may have been superhero related. And there are a lot of hints of that with the animated Fantastic Four counterpart show in this new movie.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's maybe the direction that they're going, where the whole tightness of this shared universe thing, it worked so well before. It's maybe time to reinvent that a little bit and maybe be a little bit looser with it. And I'm kind of getting the sense that things are loosening up a bit.
Well, Feige's comments seem to suggest exactly what you're saying. So I do anticipate we will get that to some degree. And while I don't know if I love the idea of rebooting Iron Man and Captain America, especially Captain America, when you've established that we have a black Captain America now, like just taking that away because the Brave New World did not reach your expectations financially or otherwise feels like narrative fecklessness. It doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't do that if I was Kevin Feige. I would figure out another way to make that work. Iron Man maybe makes a little bit more sense, especially with Downey Jr. now taking on the Doctor Doom role.
Yeah.
However, I think that is another character that will also be rebooted, recast once we get post Secret Wars and Doomsday. But I think they need to figure out the Anthony Mackie thing. I would not give up on that right now. But to your point, as far as looseness and doing something new and different, this is a good opportunity because you now have the Fantastic Four. And obviously, and Kevin Feige mentioned this, of course, in his press conference, you have the X-Men.
Yeah.
The next phase is going to be the X-Men phase.
That really
And
is.
we're going to get a lot of those movies.
Wouldn't be surprised if they call it the X phase, or they don't even call it a phase anymore. They just call it like X1 and X2 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because that's going to be the next series of movies that we're going to get, alongside perhaps a new Iron Man, Captain America. Maybe we get World War Hulk and God knows what else.
Yeah.
Thanos' brother. or I don't know.
A lot of threads. A lot of
A lot
threads.
of threads that you could pull from.
Basically becomes a visual comic book.
Exactly. What are you going to do with Daredevil and Punisher? Like, are those ever, like, are they going to get movies at all? Is Spider-Man going to be involved? I know. I have a lot of questions. We have
I do
little
too.
answers.
Yeah. Well,
we'll
apparently
see.
Punisher will be in Brand New Day, the Spider-Man movie, from what I understand.
I cannot wait for. Like John Bernthal's Punisher, he has won me over to the point where it's one of my very favorite characters in the MCU, like the entire MCU.
I mean, John Bernthal is just...
I love him.
I love him too. He's John
God,
Bernthal.
he's so good. He's so good. All right, Brennan, let's talk about a little coffee. I love coffee.
Adult
One of my
medicine.
favorites. It's the best.
We need it. We function
right
through our
now-
day with it.
Yeah, I cannot function without it. It is my best friend. Gets me through the day.
That's how you know you've become an adult, when coffee is your best friend. And you're openly admitting that.
Yeah, I'm functioning right now because of it. We're recording this later in the evening as we're recording. And,
I still don't know how you do that.
Well, when you have two kids, your day ends at 9 p.m. unless you do something about it. Okay? That's what it is.
And
I'm
that's
at that
something
stage of my
being
life.
that's something being coffee, but more importantly, coffee that not only tastes good, but is actually made correctly and ethically.
Absolutely. And right now is an exciting time. You only have a few more days, but right now their incredible holiday blend is available. I mentioned this last week. I teased it last week, but it is available right now. The Coffee Cult Holiday Blend. It is Christmas joy in a mug. It is phenomenal. It is one of the best coffees on the planet. And I mean that very seriously.
I know you do.
So good. And they're doing a Christmas in July sale right now. It's only available through the end of the month. So there's only a few more days to go and get it. And if you want to get that holiday blend, which is an amazing coffee, you're going to want to check it out. Go to coffeecult.com, coffee with a K, cult with a K, coffeecult.com. Use our promo code ISF25. Again, that code is ISF25, and you'll get 15% off at checkout. I promise you, you will not regret it. It is an amazing coffee. You're going to love it. And that is only available for a few more days, so you need to go and check that out. Again, coffeecult.com. Use the promo code ISF25, 15% off, and we thank Coffee Cult for their support. Brendan, I love audiobooks.
Absolutely.
Listen to them all the time.
And a study has just proven how important it is to sometimes read books in audio format because of how we retain information by hearing someone speak to us. And having such a great opportunity to listen to great audiobooks and there's a plethora of them available at Audible, especially, you got to take advantage of it. Yeah,
they have 200,000 titles for you to choose from.
So many.
You can download them on pretty much any device. They have any genre you could think of: fantasy, sci-fi, business, sports, whatever you're into, they have it there. And it is the best, especially when you're busy like me. You got two kids, you're working all the time. It's hard to pick up a physical book and read as much as I would like to.
Yeah, as nice and tangible as that is, that's hard when you're traveling as often as we are. I got to say, when I was on vacation just recently, I'm very close to finishing a book via audiobook format. And talk about a variety of stuff that's available on Audible. I've been reading the autobiography of jazz legend Herbie Hancock, of all people.
There you go.
It just goes to show what kind of things you can find at Audible.
It's the best. I use it all the time. I really love it. I am simultaneously going through the Lord of the Rings books. I'm still doing that.
Okay.
Because they're forever long. It's going to take me years to get through them all.
At least you have a great voice like Andy Serkis to keep
Andy
you
Serkis
calm.
does a great job. No, I really love it. And because there's more Gollum in the books than what we get in the movies, at least in certain sections. And there's new parts to Gollum that, of course, Peter Jackson re-envisions for the films. And I love. As far as adaptations go, he does a great job. But it's
Yeah.
real fun to hear Circus do his patented Gollum voice in new and interesting ways that I've never heard before. So, but it's
He's
all part of the
reinventing
same
Gollum.
story.
He's
It's
reinventing
great.
him once again.
So I'm doing that, but I'm also going through the Dune books as well. at the
Oh,
same
nice.
time.
Okay. Okay.
And I've never read them before. So that's also really great. Those are the two that I'm currently delving into. But from time to time, I have some hockey books that I'm also going through. There's a couple of business books that I've read over or that I've heard over the last year or so. They just have it all. You got to go check it out. Audible is the place to go. audibletrial.com/InSessionFilm. That's the link. It's in the description below. audibletrial.com/InSessionFilm. Click that link, sign up, and you'll get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial. Again, that is a free book and a 30-day free trial. audibletrial.com/InSessionFilm. And we thank Audible for their support. Okay, with all of that out of the way, we'll transition now to our top 10. We are going to do a consensus top 10 once again. Brendan and I sharing the same brain as we always do. We are going to collectively, not separately, collectively come up with our top 10 superhero movies pre the MCU.
Yes.
So everything before 2008, much to my chagrin. I did try to argue that because the X-Men series began before the MCU, that those series of movies, even though some of them came out post the MCU, but they were all kind of within that timeline, could count. I would argue that they could count, but Brennan vetoed me.
I did. I'm sorry, but I think you make a fair argument as to why they could still be included because they are an extension of a series that came out before the MCU. I genuinely think a movie as good as Days of Future Past, for instance, if the MCU didn't exist, I don't think that movie would exist. Like, even though it's not an MCU movie, I think these movies came out and were creatively delegated because of the existence of the MCU. Creatively, a lot of these movies shifted because of what Iron Man and subsequent movies in that first phase started to do, and then especially phase 2. And I think doing a top 10 like this without the shadow of the MCU, I felt like that was more interesting, especially given what I feel like Fantastic Four First Steps is trying to do. We talked about it earlier just a few moments ago about it feeling like this reset button for the MCU. So it's a movie that is operating in a way like it's trying to avoid the negative shadow of the MCU. So it almost feels thematically fitting to try and apply it to these movies that came out beforehand, I think. So that was really ultimately my thinking here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's perfectly fair. My last counter argument, and then we can move on, is that one, the stories that those films utilize were in comics long before the MCU, long before the MCU. So they didn't necessarily create those because, oh, hey, the Avengers are popular. Maybe we should do Days of Future Past and write that specific story. That was in comic book form long before the MCU. And also, the other thing, the Fox X-Men movies, unlike the MCU, did not give a flying rip about continuity. Like, they didn't give a shit about continuity at all.
Yes.
So each film felt like its own little reboot in a way.
Well, yes, but I'd also say stylistically, movies like X-Men First Class and even Days of Future Past seem to be taking some creative cues as to how the MCU movies were being made. Just like the overall tonal choices, maybe some of the humorous choices, the way that action was framed. It almost feels like they were using, how good Iron Man was. Let's use that as inspiration for how we want to craft a new X-Men movie. So the existence of the MCU, I think, spearheaded the creative movement of some of those movies, regardless of the continuity of it all. Those are just my 2 cents. That's just how I feel about it.
Fair enough. I did try to argue, though. I think
it's a fair argument. And honestly, when you texted me that offline, I did go back and forth in my own brain thinking, is it okay to include those movies? And then I started thinking too, like, if we want this to be a pre-MCU consensus ranking, does that then nullify the concept by also looking at movies that still came out during or after the birth of the MCU? Like, does it then run the risk of turning this into a consensus top 10 that's just top 10 superhero movies, not including the MCU, which is then a very different way.
We've had conversations on that before.
Yeah. That's a very different thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. The other caveat here is that we are also including The Dark Knight that did come out in 2008, but the MCU obviously did not become what it was until later. And The Dark Knight did not take any cues at all from the MCU.
No, it was being worked on beforehand. I mean, even that first Iron Man, which came out a few months before The Dark Knight. So technically speaking, The Dark Knight is post MCU, but it's also pre, the MCU at the same time, right?
It's post Iron Man, pre
MCU. That's a great way to put it.
So we are including it here. Again, consensus ranking. We have to talk this out, come up with our collective top 10 here. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this. We might as well start at the top because the first two films, I imagine the first two films we very much share, but let's just go ahead and start with number one, Spider-Man 2.
Okay, well, first, before we get to Spider-Man 2, I was just about to say, you said the first two films we share. I wouldn't be surprised at the first four films we actually share. But yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to be too presumptuous because I'm not entirely sure, but for sure the first two. Okay. I would be shocked if we didn't have at least the first two. Maybe.
Well, let's just get the first two out of the way. I mean, you said Spider-Man 2. That's also my number one. I assume it's your number one because you just said it first. The other one being Batman Returns.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah, those are my top two.
Yeah, those are my top two easily. Yeah.
Off to a great start, aren't we?
So there it is. Already off to a good start. But that always tends to be the case with those up at the top. So
yeah.
All right. So Spider-Man 2, Batman Returns. After that,
yeah.
Now number 3, I wouldn't be shocked if we have this the same as well. But I don't want to be presumptuous, especially because Brendan sometimes has very odd opinions that I love.
I love you too, man.
He's for example, this is just a guess, but Ang Lee's Hulk probably number 4 for Brendan.
It's probably not even top 20 for me.
Oh, okay.
That
would be
that's
like something
okay,
he would pull
to your
out.
point. That's an example of maybe one that is a bit of an out of the box pick that I would have pretty high. And
yeah.
I will admit I do have at least one or two pretty out of the box picks in my top 10. But no, it's not Hulk. It's not Ang Lee's Hulk, which I do admire. It is a film I admire. I'm not one of those that think of it as a secret masterpiece, though. I'm sadly not one of those.
I don't either. Yeah. But that's why I bring that up, is to be like, okay, that I could see that one being one of those Brendan picks. Okay.
Yeah. So number three is The Incredibles.
Yep, that's what I have as well. Yeah, The Incredibles.
Okay. So we have the top 3 in line. How easy. How lovely.
Got the top 3. Okay.
Should I go to my number 4 then? Because I wouldn't be surprised if my number 4 is also your number 4.
Well, I wonder if this is where we split off slightly, but
okay.
I'm curious what you have.
I have Unbreakable at number 4.
Okay, I have The Dark Knight. So
The Dark Knight is not in my top 10.
Yeah, but and I knew that was likely going to be the case.
But I'm okay putting it in our shared top 10 because I understand the influence of it. So I get that. I get that. There are things like I love The Dark Knight as a movie. I love the character of Batman so much that I tend to prefer movies like Batman Begins because I just love the Batman isms that they provide. But I think The Dark Knight is a great movie and maybe even a better movie than, let's say, something like Batman Begins. I do acknowledge it. I think it's such a well-crafted crime saga.
Yeah, I recently rewatched the film The Dark Knight because of the current younger generation having hard feelings toward it for whatever reason. And I am sad to report that I cannot join the haters club when it comes to The Dark Knight. I think the film still rules.
I think it's very good. I think it's really
excellent.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
the fact that it's not in my top 10 for this list, I'm not trying to downplay it or disregard it. I think it is quite an excellent movie. There's just like I respond to different things in superhero movies nowadays, and it's not that I don't respond to The Dark Knight. Like I said, I like my Batman in a more kind of gothic kind of sensibility. Like I think it's why I slightly prefer even like Batman Mask of the Phantasm, for instance, which is in my top 10. I think I actually have that at number 5. So it's that's just the thing I gravitate towards that The Dark Knight doesn't quite have. But I also know it's not going for that. Like I recognize that it is going for a very different vibe and a very different thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I have The Dark Knight at 4, but I do have Unbreakable at 7.
Okay.
So that is also in my top 10.
So just given the shared interest there, like what if we have a working top 5 now as Spider-Man 2, Batman Returns, The Incredibles, Unbreakable, and then The Dark Knight?
Okay. Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah. Let me look at my list again. My ranking's pretty rough, but Dark Knight I'd probably have somewhere around like 12 or 13. So it just misses my top 10. So it's not... There are many superhero movies that we could talk about for this list, so it's not low. I think still from a weighted average standpoint, we could still give it some weight by putting it in our collective top 10 for sure. I'm not opposed to that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it should be there. Like I love those 5. I think that's a really good 5 to begin with. Now where we go, like these last 5, I'm going to be really curious about.
Well, this is where I think it gets interesting, and maybe this is where we have to talk a little bit more about criteria in a way, because if we start to kind of rejigger this criteria a little bit, there's a good chance that The Dark Knight would actually end up in my personal top 10, because I have 2 movies in my top 10 that are sort of like loose superhero movies in a way. Like they're not really superhero movies, but they kind of function like superhero movies. I don't. Do we want to talk about some of those now, just to see if we actually agree on?
Transformers? Yes, I agree.
I didn't have that on my list.
Prime, number 6.
Well, it's funny. I didn't have that in my list, but you're kind of speaking my language a little bit as far as types of films that really aren't superhero movies, but they kind of function like one. And I think Transformers is kind of a great example of that. But what about something like Men in Black?
Oh, man. You just had to make this difficult.
I know. But it's like it follows the blueprint of a superhero movie quite perfectly, but it's not really a superhero movie. You know what I mean?
I guess if we're including it, my top 10 is obliterated a little bit, because that film probably makes my top 5 if we're including it. But
It's such a good movie.
It is so good, but it does feel more in the alien sci-fi realm than superhero. I don't know.
That's why I bring it up. That's why I bring up some of these movies that would technically crack my personal top 10, like Men in Black or The Mask of Zorro or The Rocketeer or The Iron Giant.
I mean, The Iron Giant certainly has Superman
Referenced.
homages and references, but I can't call it a Superman movie though. I don't. I feel like we're stretching to include those movies.
It's
as
unfortunate
much as I want to.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because most of my favorite movies that would fall kind of within this spectrum are the ones that kind of stretch that genre a little bit. If we were to include these stretches, if we were to be like Mr. Fantastic here and include these here, The Mask of Zorro would be my number 5. But does it count? Does it qualify?
I'm leaning toward no. I
Okay.
feel like those movies fall into other categories.
Okay.
And again, if the idea is to be a little bit more pure on this, we're not talking about the X-Men movies post 2008, and we're just leaning towards superhero movies. Like this, I feel like is kind of a parallel conversation.
I think that's fair.
And again, like
yeah. Since
I love those
won
movies though.
since I won the argument for not including other X-Men movies that came out after 2008, I'll give you this argument. I think that's a nice way to split the difference then.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it just comes down to how we define the superhero. I just don't look at those movies as the superhero. Swashbuckling, alien, protectors, sci-fi.
So then even no to something like, let's say, the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, exactly. Like that one kind of comes the closest, but I mean that one you can maybe include because
of its origins and maybe where it came from.
Because there is kind of like this there is kind of this super element to it with these turtles that do protect people. They go around protecting, keeping New York City safe, fighting other giant antagonists. That one, I think, comes the closest.
Gotcha.
The other ones, though, I think we're doing our best to tiptoe the genre so that we don't sound like a cliche.
I think that's fair. All right. So, okay. I'm glad we got the chance to clear that up. And I'm glad we got the chance to at least acknowledge that those are really good movies. And I know if you try to research this topic of best superhero movies that predated the MCU, there are some publications out there that do include them. But a lot of these publications like to stretch those genre definitions a little bit, which I think is fair. And perhaps it's something, if we agreed upon that, we could have done that here, but I'm okay just going the more traditional route. It certainly makes this a lot cleaner for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it also, and this simply comes down to me being away for a week plus and just now getting home and getting my mind wrapped around what day of the week it is, let alone catching up on emails and everything else I got to do. If you and I had time to really flesh this out beforehand, criteria wise, maybe that's something where we came into this with a little bit more clarity, because that was like, I love those movies, but not at all top of mind when it comes to this genre.
Yeah,
I don't know what the definitions were for those publications that you looked at and why they chose what they did, whether it was Men in Black or, whatever. I don't see them as superhero movies unless we're expanding the scope of this in an intentional way.
Yeah.
But if the idea is to close that gap a little bit to what we were saying earlier, it feels a little hypocritical to me.
Kind of like how when we talked about our top 10 franchise starters, I threw Charlie Chaplin your way and completely pulled the rug from under your feet.
Like, that's really stretching it. I love the idea, though.
These are movies that we just brought up here that I think, could you argue that they're superhero movies? I think you could. But should we disregard movies that have that I think you could mentality as opposed to they definitely could? And maybe we just focus on the definite ones. Okay, so that's fine. We can do that. So with those out of the way, we have a top 5 here that I'm currently happy with. Spider-Man 2, Batman Returns, The Incredibles, Unbreakable, and The Dark Knight. What else do you have in your list that maybe it's somewhere high in your like 6 through 10 or something that you personally want to bat for?
Okay, so I have Batman Begins.
Okay.
I mentioned Unbreakable earlier. That first Spider-Man, I think, is quite great as well. And this isn't necessarily in any particular order. I'm just kind of reading
Sure,
here.
sure.
Blade 2, the Del Toro film.
That I have in my top 10 as well.
The original Superman and X2 kind of round out my list here.
Okay. So rounding out my list, at least those now in my adjusted top 10. Actually, forgive me, folks who are watching on YouTube. I'm doing this on my phone. That's where I did the preparation here. So if it looks like I'm looking out into nothingness, that's ultimately why. So Spider-Man 2, Batman Returns, The Incredibles, and Unbreakable. Those were my top 4. My number 5 would actually be Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut specifically, which I don't think you've seen that cut. I know you've seen Superman 2, but you haven't seen the Richard Donner cut. So sadly, that might be something we just simply have to disqualify because we don't have two opinions to give it some weight.
Yeah. I mean, it's very possible, especially the way that you articulated it. I probably would love that film. That might be a top 10 once I see it.
You can't speak to it yet.
On speculation,
and we can't rank it if you end up, hating it. I mean, what if that ends up happening? So we can't play the what if
my
game.
opinion on the film at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's high for me for sure. I'd be curious to see what you think about it. Number 6, I have Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Number 7, again, a film I don't think you've seen. So one we probably have to disqualify, but that's Sam Raimi's Darkman with Liam Neeson.
No, a blind spot as well.
Okay. All right. So that's unfortunate. I think it's a really interesting movie. Blade 2 I have in my top 10. So that's definitely something we can consider. My 9 through 10, or my 9 through 11 really is where I currently have that first Spider-Man, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight. So we definitely have some shared interest there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously of that crop, The Dark Knight is the one that's going to be highest on my list. And Blade 2 I mentioned that. And then Spider-Man, Raimi's first Spider-Man would be the other one I would fight for out of that crop.
So it sounds like after The Dark Knight, which we have at our collective number 5, it sounds like our 6, 7, and 8 probably in some order: Batman Begins, Spider-Man, and Blade 2.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Is there an order between those 3 that you would try to argue for?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue for Spider-Man to be first among that crop.
Me too. I'm okay putting that at number 6.
Yeah. And then
I'm kind of partial to Blade 2.
I was actually just about to say that as well. Yeah.
I there's a lot about Batman Begins I really do like because I love I love how Nolan does tap into a little bit of the gothic sensibilities that I love from Batman. But I mean, you want to talk about gothic sensibilities? Blade 2 is bleeding those aesthetics, and I just love the style of it.
I love it as well. Yeah, I think it's really great. It's a wonderful Del Toro movie, and his thumbprint among those series of films, it's so vivid comparatively to the other movies that came out. I dig it. I think it's really great. A lot of fun. Yeah, a little Sam Raimi in that regard. Like you feel Raimi all
a little
over
bit of
those Spider-Man movies. So
yeah, absolutely.
See, I would probably prefer those over and I really like Batman Begins, but that would probably be 3 on that list of those 3 specifically.
So then we currently have Batman Begins at number 8. I heard you mention in some of those others that you like Superman, the original Superman, the movie, which maybe we put that as a temporary number 9 if we find anything else to replace it with. I currently have that maybe around like 12 or something like that. So it is a movie I do really quite like. I mean, I mentioned earlier, I'm really most partial to Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2, but I think there are a lot of things in that first Superman that are quite great, especially when Christopher Reeve enters the fold. Once everything gets to Metropolis, it's kind of a near 5-star superhero movie. I think it just has a bit of a wonky beginning getting to that point.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, the beginning isn't the best. Some of what we get in Metropolis, I don't love, but I do mostly really like it, especially the Lois Clark dynamic is electric. Really quite great. And a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Great score, obviously. I really do dig it. But I'm not married to that film necessarily. If it doesn't crack the 10, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I think that's fine. So, like I have that at like number 9 on this list. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I really do have it here mostly for variety's sake, because in all transparency, I probably prefer those first 2 X-Men movies over Superman. I might even prefer Batman Forever, like just subjectively speaking.
Batman Forever is fun. I wouldn't go that far for the first Superman, and I certainly like that first Superman over a lot of the X-Men movies.
But also, and sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Just full on caveat here that is important. I have never been, generally speaking, a big Superman fan. Just not my cup of tea at all. I think those Donner films are fun. I think they're fine. I don't get the same joygasms as you hear in Batman Forever. I don't get the same joygasm from a Superman movie like I do some of these others, even if I do respect and appreciate that first Superman movie for what it is, and especially at the time that it came out, kind of leading the charge here in a lot of ways, preceding many of these movies that we're talking about here. I do respect the film for that. I just generally, like, same thing with the comics or the cartoon. It's not even just the films. I've just never been into that character, which is why when we get to our year-end show, I'll be shocked if this year's Superman isn't my winner for best surprise movie of the year.
That's
I
fair.
cannot
That's fair.
believe how I responded to that film, because I've never really cared. So I have it on this list kind of as I appreciate and respect the kind of what it's going for, especially allegorically speaking, as we've talked about before. But on a subjective level, there's probably a dozen other movies I prefer.
I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. And I'm looking at the rest of what could round out our top 10 here, collectively speaking. It would be nice to have a Superman movie in here. It is unfortunate you haven't seen the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, so we can't speak to that collectively. At the same time, too, I'm thinking, should we include Superman the movie just because it was so influential and it is a Superman movie? Or do we trust our instincts and our guts and our hearts, really, and just pick the movies we like more? Because I like Batman Mask of the Phantasm more than Superman the movie. I think I'm higher on that movie than you are. But then again, I kind of had a bit of a nostalgic relationship with not just that movie, but Batman the Animated Series. So I'm always going to have a bit of a love for that.
I do really love that movie.
Okay.
It's not in my top 10, but I think it's for the opposite reasons that you're talking about there, in the sense that I don't have a relationship with that movie. I don't have the same relationship with the animated series. I did watch it and did enjoy it, but I was much more into Spider-Man and the Avengers at that time than I was Batman or Superman. So honestly, that film, I don't think I caught up with it until
I think I remember that. You caught it up
somewhat recently.
You caught up with it pretty late, actually.
Yeah, pretty late. I think it was around 2020, 2019, something like that. Within the last 5 years or so, but I never saw it when it came out. And for years, for 2-3 decades almost, I did not see that movie. So I just don't have that same relationship, which is why, again, I would prefer something like a Batman Forever over it, even if Phantasm is probably the better movie, but I have way more of a history with Forever.
Yeah, let me...
So again, to your point, as far as subjectivity versus artistic credence, where do you go?
Well, let me ask you this. What about Tim Burton's first Batman? How do you feel about that, and where's that ranked for you?
Again, that's another movie I like. That's probably like 11 or 12.
Okay.
Yeah. Sitting there with that first X-Men Forever. The first Blade.
So it's kind of sitting into that like B tier of where our list could be, as opposed to the A and S tier films that we know are going to be in our top 10.
I mean, I think it is close though. Like it's not far from that 10 for me. And again, if I'm being purely subjective about this, I would have that in my 10 over something like, again, that original Superman, for example.
I do like it.
Noted earlier.
I do like it more than that original Superman. That's another reason why I brought it up. So maybe this
if that's our 9 or 10 here, no pushback from me.
That's a lot of Batman we have in this list.
But I know we already have The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, maybe Returns, of course, maybe Phantasm.
And then now Batman 89.
Like if we end up with Phantasm and 89 as our 9 and 10, like literally half of this list is Batman.
I'm not sure if as much as I think I might prefer a lot of those movies over, like, let's say Superman the movie and some of these others, at the same time, I'm not sure if I want to do that. That's the thing. It's like this is where the mathematical side of things gets a little annoying because I like the idea of adding some variety to this.
I do as well, but we're also at a little bit of a standstill, and this is the important context of this conversation, which is why these collective rankings are really fun, because we have to discuss and figure out where we can meet in the middle.
Yep.
Because 2 of those movies you have, I flatly have not seen.
Yes.
I just can't speak to them. I might love them as much as you, but I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
And we can't assume that. We cannot
assume that. The other thing here is you and I have a huge disparity on X-Men 2. Huge disparity.
I like it. Like I will say this, I actually do quite like X-Men 2. If it sounds like I don't, it's because I just like a lot of these other movies more than it.
Yeah. I feel like we've talked about it before. Maybe I'm overly exaggerating those conversations, and maybe my memory's a little off. But
if I might speak to that, you might be conflating it with my feelings on the first X-Men, which I don't think is very good. I think that first X-Men has,
which I do really like.
I think it's aged like warm milk, personally, but
I don't agree with that at all. Maybe that's it. Maybe it is the first X-Men.
It's the first one, but I think the second one is a significant improvement. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think there are things in X2, especially in its final climax, that I think are very sloppily handled. But I think as a comic booky superhero movie, it does a lot of what I like to see in these types of movies that the first X-Men movie did not do. I think Bryan Singer perfected the X-Men isms in that one more so than anything else.
I think that's fair. I do love that first one quite a bit, but I do think that X2 takes the foundations of what that first one is and certainly heightens it, makes it sharper, and overall more well-rounded, which I do really like about that film. And also, I think it's the movie outside of Nolan. Nolan is a completely different animal. Yeah. But just in terms of comic book convention and setting a standard for what these movies could be, I think that's another one of those big ones, along with Spider-Man 2, that gave the MCU its blueprint. And we know that to be objectively true because Feige worked on those movies.
Yeah.
So it really did become an inspiration for him early on with the MCU.
Sure.
So that, I think, also gives it a little bit of weight. And that's why it's ultimately on my list here. And also, I just think it's a really great X-Men movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to putting X2 in our collective ranking, really just for the sake of adding some variety.
That too, because we don't have X-Men here, sadly.
I still prefer a lot of these movies, but I'm willing to be a bit flexible with how we put this together, just simply because I don't know if I want to have 5 or 6 Batman movies in a consensus top 10 like this.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I mean, we have 5 currently if we don't include X2 or Superman or something else. And I don't want to disclude Phantasm. Again, great movie. I do really like it. I just don't. Again, I just don't have the nostalgic relationship you do. But I really like the film on its own terms.
I
I
will
mean-
say, if I were to push for any other Batman movie to add to this list that we don't already have solidified, so we already have Batman Returns and The Dark Knight solidified, right?
Yeah.
But if we were to push for a third Batman movie, if I were to push for one, it would be Mask of the Phantasm.
over
and again-
Batman Begins.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If like in my personal ranking of Batman movies, Mask of the Phantasm is my second favorite Batman movie of all time. Like
Okay.
I have it that high. But then again, that's just me. So maybe the weight of that kind of pushes it in there. And at the same time, for the same reasons as we're talking about with X2, at least on my side, it also adds some variety, which I'm willing to consider.
Yeah, I mean, if we exclude Batman, I'm not against excluding Batman Begins. If
Mhm.
we're going to include Phantasm, especially because that gives great variety even amongst the Batman movies.
Exactly.
So you got the one Tim Burton, you got the Nolan, you got the animated. I think that's a really good variety just for that character.
I agree. I agree. And because I love it so much, I think it maybe does add that weight there. And because you love X2 so much, a little bit more than me, this is maybe where we get to have like that moment in all of these consensus rankings, JD, where it's like one for me, one for you kind of
Yeah,
moment.
exactly.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Okay.
this moment, right? And I'm okay
Okay.
with that.
Does that give us a 10 then, or are we at 9?
That gives us a 9 that I feel pretty solidified about, or
Okay.
at least I think we're
I like-
solidified
okay.
about.
So
So,
then we just have to figure out if we're going to go Superman.
Batman Begins,
or-
and maybe we keep that there. Maybe we go Tim Burton's
Or Tim
Batman.
Burton's Batman.
Maybe we go
have those
Batman
two.
Forever, since you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like-
we do some. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and again, I don't know if this is tedious because I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I don't know how much to weigh it because Burton's first Batman is the much better movie. It is.
Mhm.
Do I selfishly, subjectively, maybe prefer Forever ever so slightly? Maybe. Like it is so stupid and ridiculous and fun. I can't help.
You were a
myself.
silly man, and I love it.
I can't help it. Look, I'm not arguing that it's the better movie, but
It's fun though. It is
it's
a fun movie.
fun.
It gets better as the superhero movie and blockbuster movie landscape nowadays just completely changes for the worse. Like that movie.
I
does
know
look better.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
so weird. Like that film never gets made today. Never in a million years.
I do like it quite a bit. Like it would be a top 20 for me for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that first Burton Batman is probably the answer, unless we want to go Superman again for variety's sake.
Well, with
And-
that said,
and reverend's sake.
yeah, in reverence sake, and I think it might be nice to have that there. But maybe before we do, I'm looking at my list. Maybe we should talk about a few others that could potentially qualify because I want to make sure we don't miss anything.
Okay.
We mentioned that first Blade, which is
Yeah.
I still like a lot of these movies more than that first Blade, but I think it's at least worth acknowledging that Blade 2 wouldn't exist without it. Even though I do think Blade 2 is the much better movie.
Mhm.
There are some kind of offshoot superhero movies that are really fun, such as Mystery Men. Remember that movie?
I do remember. I have only seen it the one time. Was not a
Okay.
fan.
Okay. I
But
don't
it's
love
been
it, but it's
2
fun.
decades
Yeah,
since
I
I've
think
seen
it's
that
fun.
movie.
It's not great. Here's another one that I think might fall into that that stretch that we talked about earlier. The Mask with Jim Carrey.
The Mask with Jim Carrey. Man. That might fall under I need to give that one another go to really confirm. My immediate reaction is that it's in the same vein as Men in Black and all those other movies we talked about earlier.
Which I think is fair.
But I don't like I have not seen that film since the 90s.
It's a 90s time capsule movie. I mean, it's 1 year removed from Batman Forever, so you might end up liking it for the same reasons.
Yeah, who knows? Like I really liked it as a kid.
Me too.
I watched that VHS so many times as a kid, but it's been 30 years. I don't know. I mean, maybe not quite that long, but it's been a long time. I have not seen that film in such a long time. So my immediate reaction is no, but that could change if I ever revisited that film.
It's a pretty fun movie.
Yeah.
I kind of think the answer might actually be Superman just for variety's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we go for quality's sake, the answer is probably another Batman movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which would mean we'd have 4 Batman movies in this list. But I think there is... I think there is an argument for the reverence you mentioned earlier for Superman. And we've done that before in these consensus
We
top
have.
10s, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've given extra points and extra weight to something if it was a legacy movie, if it spearheaded where these great movies ultimately stem from. Because as much as we prefer these movies, they would not exist if it weren't for Superman. Superman
for sure.
is really the creation of a lot of these.
I agree. And I'm okay with that, even though I certainly do prefer some of these others, but we don't have Superman represented on here, and it's an iconic character, and I know with an iconic performance behind it that many people also cherish and adore. And yeah, I mean, it set the foundation for what these films could be and how, audiences could treat them in a fun and diverting, but also maybe a little bit more serious way than the silly, goofy Batman TV show and movie that came out in the 60s and 70s. So, and I think that goes a long way. I think that's worth celebrating, especially in this manner. So
yeah,
I'm okay if we treat it like we did Toy Story some weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And kind of like we've done that with many films that just have this legacy tie. I think that means we have a top 10. One thing I was going to text you offline, since we had a bit of a back and forth trying to determine the criteria here, is that this is a list of what we dub the best superhero movies pre the MCU. Would it be fair to include that first Iron Man at the very least? It started the MCU, but even at that time, the MCU was just a speck of an idea that didn't form until they realized they had something that was working. It could have just been a one-off.
It could have. I do wonder if, I mean, I don't know though. That whole film ends with an end credit stinger, which at that time wasn't nearly what it is today. With one of the most iconic end credit scenes we'll ever see.
Yeah,
they absolutely had a vision.
I bring it up not as an argument for it, but more as a question to ponder on. If we were to include it, it certainly changes my list for sure. But I'm still leaning towards not including it for the sole reason that what if someone sees our list without listening to our show and wonders what the hell we're even talking about when they see the topic at hand, but yet we still included Iron Man? That doesn't seem to make sense.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. People would be like, these guys are out of their minds.
Yeah.
Including
So I think
an MCU film and a pre-MCU ranking.
For the sheer safety of our internet homes, I think we should just not do it. But
I do not. I'm not answering that comment section. That's all on you.
That's another reason why I don't want to do it. But I did want to bring it up as a question because mostly because I want to acknowledge how great that first Iron Man is.
It is great. No, it's fantastic. If we're just talking about superhero movies at large, it's absolutely one of the best and very much in a conversation for our top 10, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Certainly one of my favorite MCU movies. But I do think they went in knowing what they were.
They certainly took a chance. Yeah. They took a chance in a way that they still could have had a one-off successful movie if the chance didn't work out.
And I still remember that moment in the theater the very first time. And it's a packed house and everyone just collectively losing their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Like we never seen anything like that before. It was wild.
True.
Like
yeah.
it was pretty incredible.
It was wild. Yeah. I think it's just also worth bringing up the movie as maybe an indirect tribute to the great Ozzy Osbourne, who just passed not too long ago. Given the legendary Black Sabbath song that plays at the end of that movie, Iron Man, the titular Iron Man.
Movie.
Yeah, it was a big part of the marketing when that first trailer came out, how great that was. So if anything, a rest in peace Ozzy moment for sure, bringing it up here.
Sure.
But with that aside, JD, I think we have our top 10.
Okay.
Maybe we should go ahead and reiterate it quickly now. But at number 10, we have Richard Donner's Superman from 1978. We have Bryan Singer's X2, X-Men United. At number 8, we have Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Number 7, Blade 2. Number 6, Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man. Number 5, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. Number 4, M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable. Number 3, Disney Pixar's The Incredibles from Brad Bird. At number 2, Batman Returns, Tim Burton's Batman Returns. Yes, we have that Batman film higher than any of the rest. We think it's that good. And Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 topping our list as the best pre-MCU superhero movie, maybe even the best superhero movie ever made as far as my money is concerned.
Yeah, I probably still have Spider-Man 2 as the best. I know that's a little bit of a hot take, you and I on an island there, I think, Brennan. Perhaps with 1 and 2, I think more people will come around with Spider-Man 2. They'll be like, okay, that's fine. That's understandable. Yeah. Batman Returns being at number 2, I think is going to rub some people the wrong way. I'm curious how people
That is an amazing movie. That might be Tim Burton's best movie. And it's so certainly good. Top 3, I think.
I agree. No, it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm curious what you all think. Leave a comment below. Let us know if you agree or disagree with us and our ranking. If you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can always reach out to us on social media. You can email us InSessionFilm@gmail.com. Okay, a couple of notes before we get out of here. We will have bonus content this week. We have some films that we've caught up with that we want to talk about that we either didn't do a review for or we weren't on the review episode for. So we're going to talk about those movies, including Eddington. I will give my thoughts on Eddington. I was not there for that conversation. We'll give some brief thoughts on Happy Gilmore 2, which came out over the weekend. I also caught up with K-pop Demon Hunters. We'll talk about that.
Oh, man, I've been hoping to see that soon.
The Rami Malek film, The Amateur, which is now on Hulu for people to go and watch.
Okay.
I caught up with that. So we'll talk about those 4 at the very least. And who knows what other shenanigans we get into. So if you want to check out that bonus content episode, there are 3 ways to get access to our bonus content. Patreon.com/InSessionFilm is one of the easiest, best ways to support us. Really helps us out a lot, and you get access to all of our bonus content. Again, that's patreon.com/InSessionFilm. Apple Podcast subscriptions. Sign up for an Apple Podcast subscription. You'll see all of that on your feed. Automatically comes to your feed there on Apple Podcasts when you subscribe. Or if you like to watch us here on YouTube, you can become a member of the channel, which will give you access to that bonus content as well. Those 3 options will get you access to all of our bonus content. And we really do appreciate those that do support and subscribe. We will have reviews this week. We noted earlier Fantastic Four First Steps. We'll have a review of that. And we'll also have a review. We teased this a few weeks ago, and then unfortunately, due to scheduling, we just didn't have an opportunity to talk about it. But we're going to talk about the new film, the Japanese film from Kiyoshi Kurosawa, Cloud. Megan Laux, who's joining us for Fantastic Four, she's also going to join me for that review as well. So those will be our 2 discussions this week as far as review episodes go. So be on the lookout for that. There will be a new Women in Session at the end of the week as well that you can be on the lookout for. They're doing a great job over there, so please go and check out Women in Session each and every Friday or Saturday if I'm traveling, as is the case sometimes. Hopefully things will settle down.
Going back to Michigan, is that what's happening?
Well, I think we are at some point going to go back this fall. I don't know when.
Okay. Not this weekend, but
not this weekend. Sometime this fall, Sam wants to go to a game at the Big House in Ann Arbor.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So we're planning on taking him to one of those games. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, he needs to experience something like that.
Yeah, I know. I've been itching to forever, and for years, Brandy was like, he's too small. He won't care, but he's now old enough that he can go and enjoy it and have a good time. So I want to take him. I'm desperate to. So that is the plan. Don't worry about that though.
Get the logistics out of the way when the time comes.
For the time being, we shall everything should be back to normal. I'll also want to note before we get out of here, in about a month's time, we are going to be doing our 1999 retrospective. So once again, wanted to get that on people's radar. Watch your 1999 films and come back for that retrospective. It's going to be a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to the channel.
Yes, please.
Like the video, all that fun stuff. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you listen to the show. We really do appreciate it. With that, thanks for listening, everybody. Stay tuned for bonus content. We'll see you next time on the InSession Film Podcast. Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 is so
The best
good, man. It is so good.